Welcome to the Big Movie Mouth Off. We're here at Broovy Cinema Pub reviewing Sundance movies. This is our part 2 and conclusion to the Sundance Film Festival. I'm Jimmy Martin with Slug Magazine.
I'm Jeff Weiss from MSN Entertainment. We're sponsored by PC Laptops. You can find Big Movie Mouth Off on Xfinity On Demand, Utah On Demand Channel 1, or you can find it under Salt Lake Alternative.
That's right. We're just waiting for you.
There's a lot of good stuff waiting for you there.
You know,
speaking of good things waiting for us,
this was a fantastic Sundance.
It was the most fun I had, and it wasn't just because I saw a lot more movies and I had a lot more freedom. I just genuinely think this was one of the better crops of movies that Sundance has had in years.
I've had years where I've gone in to 20-something movies and didn't like one of them, or just, iffy, meh, But this year, I walked out of so many going, wow, that was good.
Yeah, a lot of 3-star, 3.5-star movies.
Oh, easily. And so I think, and we agree on a lot like that. I think the first one that you and I that we had a disagreement on, I'll call it Another Earth, and it was, I believe, in the next category.
Yeah.
And I love the next category because it gives filmmakers who don't have a high budget the chance to do it. Another Earth was about a girl who's an MIT student who
made a terrible choice. Terrible choice.
They discovered that there's a new planet, and so when it comes out from around the sun, you can see it in the sky. She's looking at it and crashes head on into a minivan with a family inside.
By the way, she was drinking.
She was drinking. I think she was celebrating her admission into MIT. She was 17. Kills the entire family except for the husband. Goes to prison for some years. Comes out and finds out about the husband, and actually sparks a relationship by posing as his house cleaner, and romance ensues. But I actually enjoyed it. The romance.
I like the idea.
The idea of it, the romantic issue, that's something that's been in Sundance every time, where it's, obviously it just is not going to work out. I got to come out with the truth. When it does, everything shatters. But the background of having this alternate planet, which turns out to be, they call it Earth 2. It's a parallel Earth where there's a Jeff Weiss up there looking down on you, and so I think that's so cool. And
by the way, parallel universe, Jeff Weiss, if you liked Another Earth, I'm sorely disappointed in you.
He has to. He's a mirrored. Well, I guess maybe not. He's a mirrored version, so maybe he didn't like it too.
And in this one, I have the goatee, so he's probably clean shaven.
He's Bizarro Weiss.
Yeah.
So, but I liked it. But the more stuff they did with the sci-fi aspect of it, like communicating with the other planet, I loved. It's almost creepy, eerie, But it focuses for me too much on the relationship part.
Yes, which I really didn't care for. I just thought it was tortured and contrived, and none of that worked. And there's just too much of it.
Yeah, there really is. I'll give you that.
And the resolution to it just did not work for me. Again, I love the idea of the whole thing. The execution failed. I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
I just was genuinely not enthusiastic about it.
And that's fine. But then there were a lot of movies that we did agree on.
Oh God, yes.
There was the documentary Crime After Crime.
Yeah. As I call it, the fist-shaking documentary.
Oh God. This movie, and it's a documentary that I don't think anybody could write. It's one of those things.
It would be ridiculous. If this played on the Lifetime channel, people would laugh it off.
It's about a woman who, in the late 70s, her abusive boyfriend basically
pimped her out.
Pimped out her girlfriend. Her mother caught wind of it. Basically, got 2 gang members of the Crip gang to, teach him a lesson. Didn't know it, but it ends up that the boyfriend is murdered. Gang members go to jail, and the daughter goes to jail. 25 years to life sentence. But then a law in California stated that inmates of domestic abuse can have their trials re-examined and possibly overturned to where you'd be released in 6 years. She's been in there for 20. And the roller coaster that ensues with this movie.
Yes. You will never be so angry with the American justice system.
Or DA offices.
Oh, yeah.
Corrupt.
LA DA's office, shame on you. Ooh. Wow, you did this woman a disservice.
It was so good. And it's one of those ones where you're cheering at the end, you're crying at the end. It was so good. I loved it. I thought it was so good. Another one, kind of going on a different route, more of a black comedy, was The Convincer.
Yes.
With Greg Kinnear, who plays an insurance salesman.
An oily one. An oily insurance salesman with a gambling problem.
Who meets Alan Arkin, who plays an old hermit who didn't know that he had a very valuable violin up in his attic, and Greg Kinnear tries to do everything he can to get that violin out of his hands.
Yes, to pay for his gambling losses and
for as cheap as possible.
Yes.
And Billy Kudrup comes in here. Oh my God, he plays a locksmith who puts an alarm system on the house, and then, spoiler alert, a little bit, murders ensue.
Yes.
Cover-ups, like all this kind of stuff.
I love films that surprise me.
Oh.
And The Convincer surprised me. I read the synopsis and I thought, a cute little black comedy about a guy trying to swindle a guy out of a violin. No, it takes a Fargo-esque turn.
Oh, it gets so fun.
Yes.
And it's one of those endings you're like, no.
No, they're not gonna. Really?
And you're like, it makes sense.
Exactly.
I would have been swindled.
Yes. Really good performances all around, but I really think this is Billy Crudup's biggest breakout role in a long time. He is, when you can steal screen time from Greg Kinnear and Alan Arkin, you're doing something right.
And not to put them down, they did great performances as well.
Yeah, they're both terrific.
When you step out in the same spotlight and go, whoa, it was
he
one
is
of
great
those.
in it.
Oh, it's so good. Another one that we liked, it's actually Morgan Spurlock. Everybody knows him as the Super Size Me McDonald's guy. Returns, I think this is his third film at Sundance.
It is.
It was called The Greatest Movie Ever Sold, and basically, God, I love this movie.
I love the idea of it.
He wants to show you how marketing, product placement in films is basically kind of like taking over.
Yes.
And instead to do that, he lets product placement take over this film. And you see him in the meetings talking to like pomegranate juice, and he goes, "We'll put a commercial in there," and he's talking about this like fictitious movie he's making, but he's making it. Like
Yes.
It's so meta, it's ridiculous.
Yes.
And so
and he does the sneakiest, most jerky thing I've seen, and yet I love him for it. He'll be in a supermarket, for example,
Yes.
reading down nutritional values of something, going, I just don't understand this, and then it turns into a Palm Wonderful commercial.
Exactly. You think he's going like the route of reading nutritional facts. Like, how could any American read this? I mean, if you look at this pomegranate juice,
He's so shameless and unapologetic
but it's
for
the
it.
point of it. It's so good. I love it. I mean, everything from Mini Coopers. I mean, the list goes on and on. For
Merrill Boots.
was it mane and tail shampoo? I mean, he has so much fun with this thing, and I love it because around Salt Lake there's billboards promoting The Greatest Movie Ever Sold. It is a biggest crowd pleaser. I know you weren't a big fan of Where in the World is Osama bin Laden.
No.
I enjoyed it, but this one by far.
It's by far his best film.
You are laughing hysterically.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got such great comedic timing, and that's what I love about him.
And he's such a likable guy.
I know. It's what do you call it? Like you say, he's a likable guy, and you watch something like Michael Moore, where he might get a point across, but you're still you're kind of just smarmy.
Yeah, you're kind of a fat turd. This guy, on the other hand, is very likable.
Yeah, he's
Even if he's pimping out his child in a couple of advertisements.
half the movie looks like it was like made on a dare. Like he's like, I'm gonna go, pitch this to these guys, and we'll see if they can get it. It's so fun. I loved it. Another one that we loved was My Idiot Brother.
I cannot wait for this to be released.
And I believe it got picked up. I'm not certain it did.
The Weinstein Company did.
Good for Weinstein, because this one is about Paul Rudd, who plays basically your Grateful Dead hippie.
Yes.
Who is arrested for selling pot to a uniformed police officer who makes, I won't even give it away, it's so good. Goes to prison,
yeah.
comes back, and then needs to get his life back in order and decides to stay with his three sisters.
Yeah.
Who basically
Emily Mortimer.
Zoe Deschanel.
Yes.
And
Elizabeth Banks.
Yeah. And basically, he's the character you can't hate. That's
Yes.
what I love.
No matter how badly he screws up their lives, and wow, does he screw up their lives.
Oh, well.
But he has the best of intentions.
He brings out the truthiness, you know. That's what's so good about it. And Steve Coogan is in it. That I always kind of find him iffy for me, but when he hits it, and this one he's really good in it.
Yes.
This movie is so quotable, and I don't want to start quoting it because we'll just ruin moments, but so funny, so good. I loved it. Now on the other side of movies that we didn't like, we'll start out one that's not as bad, called The Woman. It was in the Park City at Midnight series.
Yeah, this is Lucky McKee, the guy who made May, which was basically a low-budget sort of take on Frankenstein that showed up at Sundance a few years ago. He made a really big splash for himself at the time with May, and people really expected him to be one of the next big things in horror.
Well, and this is, I mean, he introduced it with, we're getting some controversy about this, like that. Basically what it's about is that a typical family man goes out hunting, finds a wild woman.
A feral wolf woman.
Covered in dirt, animalistic, like that. Captures her, takes her to his basement or cellar, chains her up, and then tells his family that they're going to domesticate her and make her a civilized human being.
Yes.
But then it kind of goes awry with violence and I understand the story you're making, but towards the end it gets so over the top.
Yes.
That
it's almost comic in its...
And that's the sad part, because you are doing something very, very controversial, but he almost treats it laughable. I mean, that's where...
Yes, and it's subject material that I'm not sure he can treat it in that flippant of a manner.
Yeah, well, it's that, and then what also bugged me, and this seems like a first-time director kind of mistake, is that there's music in it that just blares, like deafening, and I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, I mean, just in simple moments, I mean, it's just like, I don't know if the audio track wasn't done or something, I don't know, but some parts music is completely uncalled for, and it's almost just like make a serious situation humorous, and so that took me out of it. Performances are here and there.
Really inconsistent. The woman who plays the woman actually is quite good.
Oh yeah,
she's quite good. The sleazy father is decent. The kids are really awful.
Yeah, and it's but it's not as bad.
Oh yeah,
it's not as bad.
Saving the worst for last.
Yeah, we'll end it with this one. It's called The Oregonian.
Yeah,
and so it's from director Calvin Reeder. I saw Calvin's short 2 years ago called The Rambler.
Right.
Really visually amazing. He's got a style that I've never seen from a director before that works perfectly in short format. Mm-hmm. It does not work well in a feature length.
Yes. How to explain the plot. Lindsay Pulsifer, Utah actress from HBO's True Blood. Gets in a car accident and then wanders around the Oregon surroundings and stumbles into a really bad David Lynch movie.
Yeah.
Essentially.
I know it's not your typical 3-story arc, Hollywood movie. Got it. It's not surprising to me. But you're going for this avant-garde thing. You still need to have a point, or not just actors that are just acting creepy to act creepy, or the stuff that it wouldn't make sense if we started explaining it.
You mean the supposedly creepy old lady in red who smiles like this all the time?
Yeah, just smiles all the time, and it's just, that's not creepy to me. That's just like, hey, it'd be weird is if you just stood here and smiled for a minute, And Calvin does have this great visual sense.
Right.
Okay. I think for me, where he could really use his talent is a director and writer who know how to make like a grindhouse film.
Right.
Because his films look like they came from the 70s.
Or he could shoot that for them.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
Yes.
he could be an amazing cinematographer. But these films, they're not engaging. They're more laughable than I can take serious.
Oh, yeah. Punishingly bad. And Lindsay Pulsifer, by the way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and
I saw bad performances, but when you're stumbling around with a bloody forehead, yelling, "Hello, hello, hello,"
we say it so many times. Okay, when repeat dialogue happens and it becomes a drinking game, that's when I know there's a problem. That either you didn't know what you were doing on set. I know that you hurt your ankle in one scene because you were limping on your left leg, but then the next scene you were limping on your right leg.
And then sometimes you're not limping at all.
And then sometimes you're just running. So to me that sells, we're just making a goofy film that
is very amateurish.
It's amateurish, but it's just, we're going to do things that gross people out, and we're not going to really have a point. We'll just, we'll see how many people we can get to leave the theater,
Yes.
And if that's the game you're playing, fine. But I'm not going to review your film. I'm going to take your film as a film, and I'm going to say it's awful.
Yes. And thank you for bringing out the walkout thing, because the only reason I stayed through this film, which, by the way, was the very worst thing I saw at Sundance.
Yeah, it really was.
By far the very worst, was to count the number of people who walked out of our showing.
And what was that number?
17.
17 walkouts.
17, and by the way, it wasn't even full to begin with.
Yeah, well, and I've also heard that other screenings, that at the end of it, half the audience was gone, And they did say, Calvin did say at the beginning of it was, this is not a film for everybody. We'll see if you get through it, congratulations, like that, But I don't think, there's a difference of saying like, I'm grossed out or this is too controversial and I'm gonna walk out. If I'm bored and walked out, it's completely different.
Yes, and I was bored and annoyed. So
it's sad that, we ended on that one, but really, really the Sundance was one of the best I've ever had.
Mm-hmm. So many things, The Guard, Red State.
Oh, God, Red State was so good.
Yes. People are going to have a fun year of things that actually come out of Sundance and finally get...
And a lot of things got picked up.
Yes. And they deserved to.
Yeah.
I think actually one of the first that's coming up release-wise is Greatest Movie Ever Sold.
Oh, really? I know Cedar Rapids is coming out, too.
Yes.
So we will have reviews. Maybe another one of those, just to reiterate our love and hate for some of them, but we will get you there. So
yes.
Thanks for joining us for Sundance.
And thanks to Sundance for giving us such access.
Yeah, it was a good time. So we'll see you soon, and we'll see Sundance in a year.
You have a big act to follow.
Yeah, 2012.